Alright, hey everybody, welcome to this video, and I appreciate you tuning in as always. I wanted to welcome everyone that has newly subscribed to my channel. I appreciate having you here, and I'm glad you guys are checking out what I've got up here. So, the idea for today's video sort of came to me from a Facebook post that a friend of mine put up a few days ago. He is going to be traveling in a few months here for business, and doing so for the first time on his own. So, he was a little concerned about that and kind of wanted some tips and tricks from his folks on Facebook, and I said, well, you know what, I'm going to make a video because I've done this a number of times, so figured I'll just kind of share a couple little tips that I've got that have helped me out, and hopefully they can be of some help to him and any of you that might be concerned about traveling by yourself. So some of these might be kind of more common sense to those of you that have done this before, that are experienced travelers, but hopefully these will be helpful for you and give you a little bit of a leg up on those that have never done this before or never seen this video. So first and foremost, I call this one home base, and it's kind of the idea of having a person or persons on the ground that you stay in touch with throughout your entire journey. So whether it's family or friends at your destination where you're going to, or just a friend that has traveled before, just keep in contact with them throughout the journey. So you check in at the airport, you go through security, send your home base person a message, say, hey, I just made it through security, hey, I'm waiting at my gate, everything is good, everything's on time. Just kind of someone that you keep in touch with on the ground, who's kind of virtually there with you the entire time, because it can be pretty overwhelming when you're going through and having to deal with everything all at once, the security and finding the gate, making sure you're there on time. If you're making a connection, at an airport you may never have visited before, trying to make that connection, but once you get there and you kind of sit down, it's like, okay, I'm going to check in with my home base and just let them know I made it here. So, having just someone that's sort of virtually there with you throughout the process, has really kind of helped me out. I usually text my brother or my best friend, or both, just saying, hey, I'm on the ground, I made it, everything's cool. So just kind of keep somebody in the loop of where you are and what you're doing. And sort of the other idea behind that is the people that you're sort of communicating with should have an idea of your travel itinerary. So let's just say, for the sake of this video here, we'll say you're traveling to Atlanta on business for a few days, and you're going to be staying at a certain hotel and attending a conference. And I'm just making this up. So let's say your home base person is going to be a family member back home. So send them, give them your flight information, give them the name of the hotel where you're going to be. When you find out your room number, give them your room number. Because even though we all have cell phones, we don't want to rely just on those phones for getting in touch with people in the event something happens and they need to be reached. Another example here is if you're going on a cruise, make sure the people that you're sort of communicating back home with know what ship you're on, what your itinerary is, when you're going to be in certain ports, and so forth, because there is a way that a ship can be called. It's expensive, but in an emergency, you don't really think about things like that. There are ways that you can call a ship, directly and get a hold of someone, because cell phones obviously don't work on a cruise ship unless you pay for the plan and all that stuff. But, make sure that people know your travel plans, so that way you can be located in the event something happens. And these are things you always want to do just in case. Hopefully nothing ever happens. Hopefully you never have a situation where there's a big problem, but you don't want to be in that case where there is a problem and you can't be reached just because you're not in your normal day-to-day activities. So make sure you share your flight plans with at least one person, and kind of stay in touch with them as your sort of home base, and just share your flight plans with other, your travel plans with other people. Now, social media does not count as a home base, so I just want to make that clear also. Just checking in on Facebook at your airport, or checking in on Twitter or Instagram or Foursquare, whatever you do, that does not count. That is not a home base. It's a good idea to limit that type of thing unless you have your profiles locked down for privacy. So my personal Facebook profile is only open to my friends. So when I check in at an airport or anything, I'm still checking in with people on the ground, via text message or calls or anything like that. But I may check in for fun on Facebook, but only my friends that I'm linked up with on Facebook can see that. So just be mindful of what you're putting out on social media and stuff like that. Okay, so number 2, learn which airport or airports you're going to be flying through. And this is really handy, especially if you're making connections. Depending on where you're flying out of, you may just have a direct flight to where you're going. So if you're going, say, New York to Cleveland, there's a direct flight. You're not going to be connecting anywhere. But I live in Austin, Texas, and we have a fairly small airport. I mean, it's big enough, 25 gates or so. And there's some direct flights to some places, but a lot of places I need to make a connection in Houston or somewhere else. So make sure that before you leave, because this could happen to you, have an idea of what airports you're going to be flying through, and go online and look up the airport diagrams, because not all airports are created equally, and not all airports are designed equally. Some of them are a lot easier to navigate than others. So, if you wind up traveling through one of the bigger airports like LAX or O'Hare or JFK in New York, download to your phone, download pictures of the diagrams of the airports, or maybe even if you have a choice of, which I'm going to talk about kind of booking your travel in a minute here, but if you have a choice of going through a different airport, a smaller one, that's always a good thing. So, but look up the airport diagrams, become familiar with them, and as you get closer to your flight, your airline should post what gates you're going to be landing at or leaving from. So, kind of look on the airport diagram and say, okay, I'm landing at C-135 in Newark, and I need to make a connection at C-90. So I have to go back here, transfer there, whatever. Look at those airport diagrams so you have kind of a rough idea of where you need to be and when you need to be there. Now, obviously, these things can change at the very last minute, so be mindful of that. But having just a mental idea of what airports look like and where you need to go and how you need to be there and how you need to get there can really kind of help you out. And even if you're flying direct, it still helps to have those airport diagrams handy, because you can then use that to find where like your baggage claim is, where you pick up your ground transportation and that whole thing. Also, if you're getting picked up at the airport, where to meet your ride and so forth. So it's just a good idea to kind of be familiar with those. Also, if your airline offers a club or a lounge in your airport, feel free to use that, because a lot of times they'll have dedicated customer service reps for the airline in the lounge that are just for lounge guests or lounge users. So, for example, I fly United, so Austin Airport has a nice United club. There's also an American Airlines Admirals Club there too. So if you fly American and have a club membership there, they have a good American club. But if you need to make any changes or you need to talk to the airline, you can talk to the people directly in the club, and they can help you out, usually with no lines or minimal lines. So that's really handy also. And it's usually, if you have to wait a few hours in the airport, it's a nicer place to wait than sitting in front of the gate. You usually have to pay a little fee to get into the club, but it's definitely worth it. And sometimes there's an open bar there too, so if that's your thing, it's kind of well worth the price of admission. So number 3 is having a good complement of apps on your phone that will help you with travel. So kind of a must for me is your airline, hotel, or car rental apps. And not just having them on your phone, but spend a few minutes, here and there, learning how to use them and get yourself logged in, and see if there's a way that you can either keep yourself logged in or use like your touch ID, your thumbprint ID or your fingerprint to keep you logged in or get logged in a pinch. Because if you need to change a reservation or you need to, check something with your reservation, and if you have a different password for one of those in a pinch, you don't want to have to scramble to figure out what your password is or reset your password. Just keep yourself logged into your your airline's application or your hotel application or whatever on your phone, so you can get at your reservation fairly easily. And a lot of those apps will also give you the option to call them directly from within the app, so that's good. So just kind of be aware of how to use those apps, and they can be a really handy tool for you should you need them. Also consider using an app like TripIt. I'm a huge fan of that app. I've been using TripIt for a few years, and it's sort of like it's a planning app. It's like an aggregator app. So you put all of your reservation information into this one app, and it will then show you an itinerary with times and everything for your car rentals and your airline reservations and your hotel reservations. And sort of just the way my mind works, I like watching that timeline. Say, okay, it's 7:30 in the morning. Where do I need to be right now? look at TripIt and it says, okay, well, your flight's boarding at 7:50. So I know I'm in the right place. I'm at the gate. Everything's cool. And also I like using that for planning, because I sort of go through the day in my mind and say, okay, so I'm planning a trip to, we'll say I'm going to go up to New Jersey for a weekend or for a few days. And say, okay, I need to start with either my transportation to the airport. Am I driving myself or am I getting picked up? Once I do that, I get to the airport, I'm checking in, need a flight, book my flight. And once I arrive there, I need to get from the airport to somewhere else. I either need to get picked up, I need a rental car, I need a Uber, whatever. I need a hotel reservation. Where am I sleeping? What am I going to do when I'm there? I need activities and things to do. So like I use TripIt to build my itinerary that way, which sort of leads me into the next one, which is number 4. And this one's not always possible, but if it's possible, try to plan the trip yourself. Mainly for the reason that it helps you have a handle on all the details of what you're doing. I know that this doesn't apply to everybody, because if you're traveling on business, for example, someone else might plan all your details for you and just hand you a packet and say, here's your flight, here's your hotel, and here's everything. But they'll make sure everything is in order, so you'll have all that stuff that I just mentioned. You'll have that all kind of ironed out in advance. But if you can do it yourself, it's a nice thing to do, to just get you familiar with the process, and so kind of what you book, and then put all that stuff into an app like TripIt, for example. So this is another one of those common sense ones, but don't forget, you're going to be in a safe environment when you're in the airport. You go through security. Everyone is subject to the same security screening, so you're not going to be around people that wish to do you harm. People are in there with no weapons or anything like that. So when you're walking around in an airport, once you've gone through security, it's a very safe place. So just keep that in mind, because I know some folks are concerned about, what if somebody looks at me funny, or what if I look at somebody funny, or what if something happens like that. But what's going on? There's some noise, so sorry about that if that's getting picked up. Just don't worry about it, because you're in a very safe environment. And if you have a question that you need answered, find somebody in a uniform and ask them. And I don't necessarily mean go to a cop or go to a TSA agent to ask them a question, but if you are flying on Delta, for example, and you see a Delta representative with a Delta badge or Delta name tag, and you have a question about your flight, ask them. They are more than happy to make sure that you get to where you need to be on time and safely. So people are always willing to answer questions. I remember when I first flew through LAX a few years ago. I'm not a big fan of that airport, I'll be honest. It's not very easy to navigate, but there's signs and everything, but there was construction, so some of the signs were obscured and I didn't know where to go. And I actually saw a United rep walking around. I happened to be flying Delta, but I saw a United rep, and I said, I'm sorry to bother you. Can you tell me how to get to gate C35? And she said, oh sure, just go down this way. So people in uniforms, are definitely there to help you. So feel free to ask them anything you need. And they'll take care of you. So the most important one, and this is the last one, is enjoy the experience. It's a lot of fun traveling solo, because there are some really big benefits. Number one, and again, don't want to put down anyone who travels with a partner, you're married, or you have a friend you travel with or anything. Nothing wrong with that. But you're by yourself. You get to plan everything. You're in charge of everything. So you gotta go to the restroom, go to the restroom. You want to go to the club, go to the club. You want to go get a drink, go get a drink. You are you. You can do you as much as you want. You don't have to worry about keeping somebody with you, or if you get separated from someone, or whatever. You're on your own, so you're in charge of the fun you're going to have. And also just don't forget, traveling alone doesn't always mean you're going to spend your entire time away alone. You may be traveling for a family event. So think about the family you're going to see when you land in your destination city. Think about the people that you have at your home base, that you're staying in touch with. And, thankfully with cell phones and everything, you'll stay in touch. So, it's just like any old day when you're going to work or doing whatever it is that you do. You can text someone, you can call someone. You can still do that when you're in an airport. So, you're not being completely isolated or completely disconnected from the world. You're going through some kind of procedures and things you have to do, but for the most part, you're still reachable and you can still connect with people. And, honestly, I can tell you that a handful of times I just needed to hear somebody's voice, going through a really busy airport and really kind of almost overwhelmed with everything. I sat down at the gate for my plane. I called you know, I forget who it was, but I called somebody and I just said, I'm here at the gate. I'm just kind of overwhelmed right now, and just talk to somebody. So you're always going to stay connected, you know, and don't forget, take pictures, take selfies, you know, take pictures of you with the plane in the background, or, you know, whatever. Enjoy the moment. It's really a lot of fun to travel solo, you know, and don't get me wrong, I love traveling solo, but I also really like traveling with friends and family, because, you know, there's good things about both. You know, traveling solo is cool, but having someone there, that's even cool too. So what do you guys think? You know, what do you have as far as any tips or tricks for people that are traveling solo? Go ahead and post some comments. I'd love to see what you think, and love to see if you have any other tips and tricks that I didn't sort of mention here. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button if you like what I've got up here on my channel. And I will be putting out more videos coming up soon. So thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.